Welcome to our panel. The topic today is Beyond Boundaries, Cultural Content Production in a New Era. And specifically, we are interested in talk about the transnational content production between the UK and China. The idea is to discuss the projects which we are involved with. There are people here from representatives from, I think, from 4 or 5 different projects. And I would like to kind of discuss, sort of opportunities and challenges which we all face. And then finally, it would be interesting to hear from you about the kind of future and how you see these projects could develop into longer term collaboration between China and UK and China in creative industries in general. So I'd like to welcome Heidi. We have Martin, Shu, and Yang. And I would like to invite you kind of to share some information about your projects, the creative China projects which you manage or participate in. Would you like to start, Heidi, maybe?
Thank you very much, Venya. Yes, my name is Heidi Ma from Leeds University. My research focusing on performance and coach industries. I was in Chinese studies for many years, so it's kind of moved from Chinese and coach creative industries, performing arts, to link between UK and China. I'm leading on 2 projects at the moment, but for this specific HRC partnership, I'm leading on the project called Bridging the Gaps and mixed reality performance of rural and urban Shanghai. It looks at migrant culture, mainly how the first Chinese and first female working class was established through the development of the textile industry, and how Shanghai Yue, or female Yue opera, was developed in conjunction with the patronage of the first female working class, and linking that with how the SMEs and digital companies in the UK could facilitate and further digitalize the storytelling in new contemporary era to attract middle class or new audience across China as well as UK. So that's what we do.
Can you tell us a bit about how the project developed, or the idea for the project? Is that something you were working on before, or was it kind of tailored specifically for the call?
For myself, I'm from Shanghai. I was trained in Shanghai all-female opera from very early age, and because I'm taller than most of the Chinese girls, and I was told to train as a male role, which is great. So I do have some inside knowledge of Shanghai Yu Opera and how that has been developed, and as I said, in conjunction with the working class in China. I think that part of the story is less known to the Chinese as well as to the Western world. But for this, for our HRC project, focus on creative industries, creative economy. I'm trying to find the parallel turning point from the transitional from industrial to post-industrial point through the transition of Shanghai textile industry and Shanghai Yu Opera House.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I would now like to invite Martin to share some information about his project.
Sure, it'd be a pleasure. So our project is really, we're trying to leverage some of the experience that Abertay has had over the years already working with Chinese partners in the field of education. Our Masters of Professional Game Development course, we have a relationship with Perfect World, and Perfect World Education, the education arm of the Chinese game publisher. And we have an intake of Chinese students every year who come and study with us to get their master's degree in professional game development practice. So our outputs are many and varied, but I'd to give you an overview of the activities that we're going to be undertaking. First of all, we have some desk research. We're looking at producing a framework for future collaboration. So we're going to be taking into account legal policy, commercial and cultural barriers and opportunities in both markets. We'll be looking to review game experiences, tech and production methods in the games industry, and both the West and in China. Something we're starting early next year, next term, basically. We're looking to produce some demonstrators or pilots using student teams with our academic and industrial partners as part of the project. So we'll be using Abertay undergraduates next term, and we'll be using Chinese master's students in the summer when they have their professional project segment of their MProf degree. MProf, it's a top postgrad. So this will give us several opportunities to get these right, to produce something that we think we can, may interest an industrial partner to take further. But also it will generate research in the processes while we do that, in terms of, different ways of working and cultural differences, etc. We're looking to produce pilots in the field of covering esports, social gaming, and applied games. I think they're often called functional games, and China as well. So the idea for these pilots or demonstrators is they may seed new products, but they're also they're going to help us develop partnerships and deepen those partnerships in the process of creating them. So ultimately, we'll be using the lessons learned from the research in those earlier work packages to basically to produce some professional training materials. And the idea is to engage industry and academic partners and develop those relationships further. So they're going to be dual language, online learning materials. And, we're also looking to have some visiting fellowships for academics employed at our academic partners in China to come over and work with us on the MProf, on the Masters of in Professional Practice and Games Development course. So we're working with Professor Rong Yuming at Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences, and also the Shanghai Theatre Company, Communication University of Xinjiang, and with Perfect World Education as well. And we have a list of industry partners from the UK and China as well that we're working with. So we are through the in-game creative cluster, which is Abertay, Dundee University, and St Andrews are involved. So that's hopefully. I don't know if I overran 5 minutes there.
No. We are okay. But I would actually like to ask a question to maybe where you can maybe kind of expand a little bit.
Sure.
So you talked a lot about the sort of academic and research related activities, but is there any ambition in your project to develop some commercial activities?
Well,
spin out some commercial activities?
Yes, I mean, hopefully. I mean, what we have is, those pilots or demonstrators. The idea is that they will potentially seed commercial projects. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't, we're hoping to use them as opportunities to introduce people into partnership, and to also, we're going to be running. I think something I omitted to say. Mm-hmm. We're going to be running you know, an engagement phase, once we've done the, once we have the pilots and once we have the desk research done, that framework that I was talking about, it's called, we call it our pathway to partnership and the proposal, but it's basically a framework for future collaboration. We're going to be running some, you know, events, engaging with industry, and hopefully setting up relationships that that will continue to, you know, bear commercial fruit, as it were, you know, in the long run, even if the pilots and prototypes don't. But the idea is that at least a couple of those ideas will, you know, the seeds will germinate into something that's, you know, commercially viable.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. And next we have Yang, who I would like to invite to tell us a few words about her project.
Hello, everyone. I am Yang Jiang from Robert Gordon University, and thank you, Vanya, for introducing us. I'm currently leading the project called Augmented Fashion. So you can find us on www.augmentedfashion.co.uk. Our project is mainly to seek to explore the ways to educate the consumer about the craftsmanship, heritage, value, and the sustainability of traditional fashion and textile products using a variety of media, so such as the immersive technologies or the other HCI applications, to interact and engage with new generations of the audiences and the consumers. Our project, all the partnerships were purely built based on the first stage HRC networking grant in 2019. So we have the academic partners and the industry partners from UK and China to work on this project for 3 years' time. For our project, we aim to determine how immersive interactions can be used to communicate the experience and value of creative artisan fashion and textile products, with a focus on the cultural provenance, heritage, and the human hand and sustainable clothing consumptions. So in our project, we look into the immersive technologies and how the immersive technologies could be used to record the co-creation process, to show the heritage and so all of these authenticities of the fashion and textile branding. Our long-term and so our short-term and long-term aim is, so we call it when technology meets the design. So we would like to say, so if the technologies could be enhanced, enhance the current shopping experience, and it could be used for educating the consumers about the sustainabilities of fashion and textile productions. So there is quite a lot of interesting research and development challenges on the slow fashion and the fast fashion sustainability issues. So we would like to say whether if the immersive technology or the immersive experience could be used to address these challenges. And we are also trying to save the immersive storytelling and series games for introducing the value of traditional brandings and skills. One of our key partners is the Harris Street Habits from the Isles of Lewis. So they are the UK, they are very famous UK brand, so over 100 years histories. So they are specialized in the lamb's wool products. So they have a very rich stories on their brand and skills. But when they were introducing to the Oriental market, so they are obviously facing these challenges and the barriers of so how it could be introduced in a proper manner to that consumers understand the values, understand the authenticities of the brands, and certain skills such as so the weavings and the embroideries, etc. So they are these traditional skills. They are fading through the time, and they are also there are also a lack of also the inheritance from the younger generations. So we are trying to see whether if we can use immersive technologies to attract the younger generations into these traditional skills. We want to connect the past with the future, and we want to enhance the cultural communication and the mutual understandings between two Asian countries. So which is our UK and the China. We are the two countries both have rich histories on the fashion textile industries. So that is majorly our project. And we are working with Donghua University, which used to call the China Textile University in Shanghai. So we are working with Professor Rong Zhen from Donghua University, and we are also one of our key internship partners in China is the Shanghai Promotion Center for City of Fashion. So working with Mr. Zhe Yuhan from Donghua University too. And we also have so another key Chinese partner. So you might see her face already in our showcase sessions. So Xie Shu and her Yanyue Cultural Communication Ltd. So they bring their expertise into the consultancies to the Chinese market. So that is basically our project summaries. Thank you, Wensha.
Okay, so just a quick question to if you could maybe also tell us a little bit about your kind of vision of on how this your activities could convert into potentially a business venture following the project, something which goes beyond the project itself.
Yes. So our project involves more than 10 partners from different disciplines. So 3 of us, we contribute into this project from different angles, and we are also taking the commercializations of the project into different aspects. Taking the actual outcomes from our current project, Karen Jose are currently working with Harris Street Habitats into the KTP project, into how the design process could help with the textile sustainability issues. So there are quite a lot of interesting things are widely discussed in our project.
Okay, thank you. So I'll probably just share a few words about the project I'm involved with. My project is called Story Futures China, and we work with the National Gallery here in the UK and the Shanghai Museum of Science and Technology in Shanghai and the Tongji University there. And the idea is that we are looking into creating some new museum and gallery experiences, which are sort of balancing the topics of science and art. That's why we have very different kind of cultural institutions involved. We work with our academic partner in China is Tongji, who are helping us to do research on the project. And we are also looking into the whole kind of range of things, like what Martin said. We are also hoping to create a framework which would kind of enable longer term work and collaboration in the exchange of cultural content, immersive cultural content. So most of the work which we are trying to do is related to, at the moment, we are exploring AR. In terms of the framework, we're looking into also building the sort of new business opportunities, new networks. We are looking into a cross-cultural kind of user experiences and trying to create a sort of model of user experience which appeals to audiences in both countries. And to kind of get to that point, we are hoping to do quite significant user research, which we're only just starting now, but we'll talk about the challenges a bit later. So I'm not sure if we lost Shu. She was online, but I can't see her at the moment.
She lost the connections. She's trying to rejoin us.
Okay, so we'll just have to then move on to the next kind of topic, which is trying to kind of talk a little bit about the particular opportunity. So as we all kind of come from different perspectives, textiles, games, museums and galleries, opera. So when you were applying for the projects, and obviously by being engaged in those, what do you think are the opportunities for the UK and China in terms of that collaboration in creative audience? So we have, you know, they're big markets, both of them. Both countries are quite big markets. Can you tell me a bit, you know, what in terms of like, what's your opinion on the particular opportunities in collaboration between the UK and China?
From my perspective, having worked in the games industry for most of my career, I joined the academy, you know, 3 years ago. I certainly, you know, the size of the video games market in China is, you know, it's enormous. I was looking at a statistic from Nico Partners where they expected by 2022 the number of PC gamers in China would equal the entire population of the United States. So there is, you know, it's in terms of market size, it's the opportunity is completely obvious. From Western publishers' point of view, I think the opportunities for our Chinese partners are certainly on the academic side. Game development education in China is an area it's certainly growing.
So basically, I'm supporting Dr. Yang's project to create the UK-China partnership in fashion creative industry. And I think when we first met in Shanghai, we were talking about how, because personally, my company is working on helping European companies coming to China to explore the business opportunities, to help them to develop in China. Even I know we have speakers from China here, but even you will feel the China market is very complicated, very different compared to Western countries. So that's why we help them to understand the China market, how they can collaborate with Chinese partners. So when Dr. Yang come to me to say they are doing some research project, they are trying to help Scottish companies to understand the China market because most of them are SMEs, we may say. So this can be very, very challenging for SMEs to do business in China. That's why I say, okay, I'm happy to support because I work with so many companies. They come into China. We see they are fantastic, no matter they're in fashion, design, technology, but in another way, they are facing challenges. They don't know how to speak to Chinese companies. For example, even Dr. Yang, even you are Chinese, right? But when you speak to Chinese companies, they may have different understanding because different coming from different cultural background, business background. So even we are speaking the same language, you don't really understand how you can collaborate from business point of view. So I say, okay, I'm very, because I lived in the UK before, I want to bring more good design, good heritage, craft things to China, but how we can make things more sustainability. You know, in business, you want to make money. That's a very simple. So, because we are in business side, we are very practical to think we can use technology to help people to create like engagement experience. And on the other way, how we can help people from Scottish or from UK to express their like design or creative side. So this is how we start with the collaboration. I say, okay, we need both sides to understand each other and bring the good things. That's why I generated some interview and some workshops to help both sides, because from China side, they need something. But obviously, our partners in the UK, they don't really know this. So that's like we build a bridge to help both sides to find opportunity and to reduce misunderstanding, to get more opportunity to be partnership. And during our project, I think we did identify some potential collaboration opportunities. For example, we did interview with one museum in Shanghai. So they are specialized in promoting Chinese heritage and culture. And they are also using modern technology, using like data to help them to create audience experience. And also they are welcoming heritage or exhibitions or craftsmanship from UK, from other country coming to China to do exchange programs. So this is something we, through the project, because for us, I know Dr. Yang is more on research side, we are more on business side. If we can connect both sides, we can make the project more meaningful. So this is something I learned
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think this is, most of our projects, if not all, are looking into creating some, transforming research into business opportunities, and it's very important to have those links. One question for everyone is, at the moment we kind of discussed, so far we discussed doing business in China, but how do we get, what's the interest, what's the Chinese interest in terms of cultural content production, and perhaps them doing more business in the UK? And how do we kind of address this through through our partnerships? So in my experience, we're also looking into engaging Chinese audiences with sort of collections by the National Gallery. But is there any are there any views on how the Chinese kind of businesses or researchers could engage more with the UK?
Yeah, I will share my experience, perhaps. I think I'm coming from slightly different, perhaps approach. My research is trying to kind of articulate the transitional process from industry to post-industrial era, the so-called creative industries, for both UK and China, to find commonalities and to have a shared narrative stories. So for our project, we identified the storyline as the factory workers and how they sponsor their own opera form, Shanghai All-Female Yue Opera. And from that as the base, I think we approached our Chinese partners first and foremost. Before we approached the UK SMEs, the idea has always been the Chinese partners, and especially if we are going into Chinese market, perhaps their support and the solid support is the base of long-term sustainable development. Fortunately for myself, I do have Shanghai Yue Opera House as a solid partnership, which then sprang to Shanghai Municipal Government, and then the textile museum. Based on that, we begin to search for SMEs, digital companies, to package the so-called Chinese content to assist them go abroad. Don't forget, in Chinese policy, cultural policy, in particular from the central government, has been pivotal in driving the development of China creative industries and ideological direction. So the ideological direction, the message has always been clear from 2014 onwards, and that is traditional Chinese culture, Chinese identity, Chinese brand to the global market. I think from that point of view, we have so far successfully kind of introduced our identified SMEs, digital companies, and two identified art institutions in China, trying to link them up together to jointly create something that the content partners in China would like, would love to have international audience, but to be created by somebody who is familiar with international audience, but also the UK digital companies to go to China to learn a bit of the content in order to knowledge transfer back into this country. And that seems to have worked so far okay. So that is our approach, and I think opportunities are from both sides.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's really good to hear. We all start these projects in a sort of very ambitious way. There was a quite fast pace from the kind of time we applied to the time we had to, set off with the project, and then there was pandemic, right? And things kind of slowed down quite a bit. So I would like you to maybe share your experiences in terms of operating in those more difficult conditions over the last almost 1 year now, and then any other kind of challenges which kind of go beyond just the COVID, and maybe kind of anything you kind of experienced or think are the particular challenges in terms of the transnational collaboration between the UK and China. So again, anyone to volunteering to share their kind of views?
Can I volunteer?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So through the entire conduct of the research and this 1 year period, so the some research challenges caused by the pandemic, so such as the data sharing is a big issue because most of the time, so where or how we share the data in UK are different way, as how it being shared or how it being delivered in China. So these are the different platforms. So you need to communicate with Chinese partners through WeChat, where the most of time we do like Microsoft, and in Microsoft, so the Teams, for example, we can do the co-editings of the documents and we can chat, where this is creating the communicational barriers. So from the Chinese and the UK research teams. And another challenge is what we find out is obviously, so this virtual conference is like Shu just disconnect. So this is a very common issue, and so the communication tools is also something that we find out very challenging. If we need to so handle meeting, especially meeting across the UK and China, because we just had these commercialization workshops. And to be very honest, that is extremely challenging, especially try to keep the Chinese audience engaged, considering about the jet lag, considering about all these connections, and sometimes they need to connect through VPNs. So quite a lot of challenges on the communications is causing the barriers and causing the challenges to handle the research seamlessly.
So talking about doing research, could anyone please kind of share with us your kind of methods of doing research with the Chinese audience or Chinese users from the UK? What are the plans for this, and how did the plans change as a result of the lockdowns and the pandemic? Heidi, maybe you could tell us, are you planning to kind of do any user research in China, and how are you going about this? And then I would also like to hear from Martin about, the audience for games.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I think we all have to we all have to adapt very swiftly since the beginning of this year. But miraculously, I think everybody is so adaptable in this digital globalized world. I think very quickly we got the handover of Zoom, WeChat, and various other platforms. But in the end, Zoom seems to be working for both the Chinese as well as UK partners. And we just held a quite successful meeting within our team by Zoom, and we have been doing that quite frequently. So based on that, so the basic communication is there compared to when I first entered this country 70 years ago. My God, if you could, it costs thousands if you just want to make a long distance phone call. So technology is there for us to do frequent communication. Then I think what we need is solid partnership on the ground and to assist us, and sounds like everybody has got that, and I couldn't emphasize enough the importance of a trusted partner who can support you. And with a team of students, I share that with Martin because I'm heading the new MA Global Performance and Coach Industries, and with my experience of really utilizing great students, creative work, MA students, PhD students, as well as undergraduate students. You give them a theme, you give them a task, and they really can develop something amazing. And I hope some of the listeners would join me later to watch the 2 documentary programs we have made in a space of 1 month by the students and utilize their weekends, 2 weekends, although they're short, but we have tested amongst all our partners, the quality is high. So I just want to emphasize technology as well as ground partnership, and utilize the amazing students force.
Thanks. I think in some ways the technology actually makes things, it's perhaps even easier to do certain things through Zoom than it would be going to China and interviewing people, or doing certain types of user research in real life. Martin, would you like to share your experiences about
Sure,
Yeah.
of course. I think the thing that affected, we had intended to have, been on the ground in Shanghai, visiting partners, discussing with them at least 2 or 3 times by now. So obviously that I mean, we have had calls and technology helps, but I still think the face-to-face communication, especially when you are, you don't have an existing relationship necessarily, or a very long existing relationship with people, is just invaluable. And also we found the pivot to online teaching as teachers and researchers. Obviously, you're, it becomes a draw on your time, your workload, and general. But I'm really looking forward. It's when we can get stuff to align, like for instance, working with students in order to produce those pilots. Those when research and teaching can align like that, it can it can be really, really powerful. To talk about the opportunities or the challenges, which are 2 sides of the same coin, really, with in the games market, as you referenced, Vanya. I would say, I mean, one of my internet cut off. Virgin Media tries to censor me constantly, but basically, the opportunities for our Chinese partners are to develop game development education within China's borders, which is something that is not there at the moment. There are very few specialist courses, so it's a knowledge exchange between us and our academic partners. In general, for the Chinese games industry, I would say it's the same thing. It's the pipeline of talent that they need in order to create the content for the Chinese market that they have. There are excellent Chinese graduates in many different disciplines, but as I said, there's not that specialized game development sort of channel, and we can hopefully help our partners begin to build that. We've had a quite a long relationship on the Improv with China over the past few years. From a commercial point of view, from a publisher or game developers perspective, I mean, obviously you have for Western companies the opportunity of the size of the Chinese market, but we also have regulatory challenges, in terms of the way that the market in China looks is somewhat different. Consoles are quite highly regulated, whereas they're a big part of the industry in the West. So, and you have to partner with a Chinese publisher in order to get your game out in China at all, which actually I don't see as that much of a challenge. I think you should be working with a Chinese company in any case if you're trying to work in that market. And I think it goes both ways. I think the Chinese games industry, the kind of content that they are increasingly creating is approaching the kind of stuff that could potentially be popular and internationally. I think the Chinese games industry has always had quite high production values, etc. But some of the titles that we're seeing coming out in the last couple of years, stand up with anything that's produced worldwide. So I think there's massive opportunities for Chinese publishers to get their content out into the world, and for it to be extremely popular.
Thank you. So that brings us to thank you for your kind of views, Martin. I think that kind of is a very interesting introduction to the next topic I was hoping to cover today, which is about the curation of the content and across cultures, and how to make sure that what we do or what we are trying to do kind of appeals to the audiences in both countries. And again, obviously, those things will be different depending on the project. But you know, is there like a sort of unique formula which we could all apply, or should we kind of try to understand audiences across different types of content? And you know, is it possible to create products which kind of work in both cultures? We did see some, like TikTok, which works everywhere. But would the same kind of you know, are the markets ready for more of, you know, products like this? Maybe Jan can tell us a bit about you know, the perspectives from the textiles industry.
I think that is a complicated question.
Yes.
So yeah, we might see this as both, I think. So obviously, different people from different cultural background will have different cultural understandings. So exactly as Sue just said, even we talk the common language, sometimes we might still have the communicational barriers. But I think I can answer this in more details in the Q&A sessions. Just cautious about the time. So yeah, thank you very much, Vanja.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, so we only have about 2 minutes left, and there is one more question which we can perhaps answer briefly. What's the future like? How do we make sure that what we're working on at the moment actually, you know, becomes sustainable and becomes a sort of longer term activity? Maybe Heidi can tell us from, you know, what are the kind of future plans for the project you work on?
Gosh, that's well, thank you very much. Final question directed to me. I would say we need to find commonality between the two countries, and there are commonalities. Textile industries, post-industrial transition is just one of many examples, and only then we can work together. Okay,
thank you. Martin, what do you think?
I think moving forward, I think strengthening partnerships and, you know, exercising them as it were means that, you know, they become sustainable. You know, if we can seed projects that grow, that have you know, a life beyond the, you know, the research projects we're all working on just now, then you know, those things can you know, those partnerships can lead to future projects and you know, strengthening those relationships. So I'm very optimistic about you know, the kind of stuff that can grow out of the work that we're doing, that all of us are doing just now.
Okay, thanks a lot. And this is where we come to the end of our discussion.
Thank you, Vanja.
Thank you.